Up next, the Deputy Leader of the Labor Party, Richard Marles. But first, here's Prime Minister Scott Morrison discussing what he thinks the election will be about.
There'll be plenty of opportunity for scrutiny, and I encourage people to look carefully at these things. You know, elections are serious things, as the Australian people know. They know it's not a reality show, it's not based on who they like or don't like. They know it's about the economy they will live in as a result of the decisions that are taken by their government.
Richard Marles, welcome to Insiders.
Thanks, Patricia.
What's this election about?
Well, I think this election comes at a really significant moment in Australian history, and I think the election is a huge opportunity for the country. The pandemic, I think, has really given Australia the biggest opportunity to reimagine the nation since the end of the Second World War. And we stand on the cusp of an opportunity to strengthen Medicare, an opportunity to fix aged care, an opportunity to give rise to affordable childcare. We have the opportunity to build an economy which actually sees us making things in Australia again, actually turning science into jobs and generating the kind of secure, well-paid employment which will see wages going again. Now, you know, Labor believes in all of that opportunity and wants to see it taken. It's also, I might say, an opportunity to restore integrity and honesty to the position of the Prime Ministership. But the real risk here is that if Scott Morrison is re-elected, all of those opportunities go begging. OK.
Labor is ahead in the national polls, and in fact that trend has been established for some time. The Prime Minister has been under unprecedented pressure this week. This is your election to lose, isn't it?
Oh, look, I think it's going to be a close election.
But why, if that trend is there and the Prime Minister is being character assassinated by his own side? It's yours to lose.
Well, in terms of the polls, I mean, I feel like we live in a post-poll world, and anyone who went through certainly any Labor person who went through the 2019 election, aside from probably experiencing some PTSD from that, we completely know that, the polls can get it wrong, and I think this is going to be a real struggle. Look, you are right in terms of what's happening inside the Liberal Party. I mean, the Liberal Party right now is a bin fire, and if you can't govern your own party, then what chance do you have of governing the country? But the reason it's a bin fire and the reason that the Liberals are in the position at the moment is because the Prime Minister lies. I mean, every time he stands up, he lies. He lied last week about Labor not listing drugs on the PBS when we were last in power. That's just a lie. And he's been called out as a liar by world leaders. He's been called out as a liar by members of his own team. The record shows he's a liar, and the Australian people know he's a liar.
Okay.
And for all of that, it is so corrosive on the national interest to have somebody like that in the Prime Ministership.
Labor hasn't opposed anything in the budget. You've supported the coalition in the cost of living handouts, the tax cuts, industrial relations, defence spending, national security. I can go on. Your actions demonstrate that the government must be getting it right on the main issues because you keep backing them. No,
I don't accept that. I mean, and I'd make this point. People are making the allegation about small targets. Just because an idea is not divisive doesn't make it small. You know, we've made our position in relation to childcare and in fixing aged care. These are real differences from the government. And I tell you, when I speak to constituents in my electorate, they see those ideas as being big ideas. You know, fixing aged care really matters in this country. Now, the Prime Minister seeks to go out and divide and create difference in our country. That's not what Albo's about. You know, Anthony is actually about bringing the country together, bringing people together, and putting on the table the kind of big ideas which do that, and which are going to make a difference in people's lives.
Anthony Albanese has promised registered nurses 24/7 in aged care facilities. I think it's by mid next year.
Yes.
Mark Dreyfus this week said it wasn't necessarily possible to deliver that. Who's right?
We'll be delivering registered nurses in every aged care facility in the middle of next year.
Then why did Mark Dreyfus suggest it might not happen?
Well, we've been really clear about the fact that is what will happen.
It wasn't clear. Well, so why wasn't it clear? Is it just because it's just too difficult to do?
No, that's not right. And Anthony's made it clear, Mark Butler and Claire O'Neill have made it clear. I'm making it clear now. We will do this in the middle of next year. We're doing it a year ahead of the recommendation or the timing and the recommendation of the Royal Commission. And we're doing that because...
No pausing
No
if
pausing,
it's too hard?
because getting registered nurses it's obviously really important to have them in aged care settings, in terms of the services and what they can provide, but it's also the leadership that they provide within aged care facilities, and we really need that leadership as soon as possible, which is why we see it as fundamentally
And what
important.
are you prepared to do to get the right workforce here? Because there are workforce shortage issues.
Yeah, that's true. And so there's a couple of points there. I mean, at the heart of it, I think, is the question of wages for registered nurses and those working in aged care. We need to make sure that we do get a wage increase there, both in terms of maintaining retention within aged care, but also attracting people. And I think there is an opportunity to get people back into aged care, working in aged care, and to keep those who are already there if we're paying people properly. Richard
Marles, will Labor commit to what could be $4 billion a year for aged care wages?
Well, we've made it clear that we will support the outcome of the wage case.
It could be up to $4 billion a year.
Yeah, and there is a process which gives rise to that. And might I say, the government have also made clear that they will be absorbing those costs as well. The difference here is we're going to use the government's voice, if we were to get elected, to argue for that wage increase, and for precisely the reasons that I've just said. I mean, this is a sector which is really underpaid. And so, it is the right thing to do as a matter of justice. But in terms of making sure that we get the workforce, attract them and keep them, you've got to pay people properly. So we see that as really central to our whole message around fixing aged care.
Given it's a big price tag, why not a levy? How else are you going to pay for it?
Well, we've made clear what the costs of our package are, and as we will all the policies that we take to this election, and we'll have all our costings out there before election day as we normally would.
Will Labor boost funding for public schools?
We've made it clear that we need to see the full funding going to public schools when the states renegotiate this in 2023. And that's the principal commitment that we've made there.
So now, what does that mean?
Well, what it means is that at the moment we've seen private schools, almost all of them are near their full funding commitment, whereas most public schools are not. That is the inequity which needs to be fixed, and the commitment that we've made is that we will put public schools on a pathway to their full funding in the negotiations that occur in the next round in 2023.
You promised at the last election to boost public school funding by $14 billion over a decade. Do public schools still need that money?
Well, as I say, the point we've made is that at the next negotiation, which is in 2023 with the states in relation to that, our commitment is to put that school funding on a pathway to the funding that they would expect.
Sorry, so next year is that negotiation you're saying. When will we get the price tag of how much extra you'll commit to those public schools?
Well, again, we have put all our policies out there, and we will, and the funding for them.
In this election, will we get some clarity on how much extra you'll spend?
Of course.
And will it be significant? Do you think there's a case for significant increases?
We will make all of that clear, but the critical commitment we have made in relation to government schools is that we will put them on a path to getting that full funding in the negotiations that occur in 2023.
OK, and that could cost billions?
Well, as I said, Patricia, we will put all our costings out there before the election.
Will Labor boost hospital funding, as you promised before the last election?
Well, again, we will be putting those costings out before the election. I mean, all of this is costings that we will put out before the election so that people have a really clear choice.
Look, we're about to enter the election campaign,
Sure.
and I know you'll make announcements later. That's logical.
Yeah, that's right.
But I'm talking about the spirit here. You are prepared to spend significantly more than the Morrison government on things like, as I ask, hospitals?
Well, you'll hear more to say.
But just I want to nail it down whether you will commit more. Is that what you're saying here?
You'll hear more from us in relation to health during the course of the campaign, and I'll leave our announcements to those moments.
Should we expect a bigger spend from Labor on health in this federal election campaign?
Let me say this. Labor has always been the party which is focused on health. And if health is the issue that people are focused on in terms of going to election, then there will be a very clear choice at this election as to who you should be voting for.
How about people living on the New Start allowance? We know cost of living pressures are intense. There are some short-term measures the government has introduced, but people on the New Start allowance are suffering significantly. Will you increase the payment?
Well, again, we have made it clear that we've thought there should be an increase in New Start, and there has been some.
Not to the extent you wanted.
There has been increases, and that's come by virtue of the pressure and the campaigning that we've done in relation to New Start. We obviously want to see that in a better place, but we've made our commitments, and all of that will be clear coming into the election.
Labor says no new taxes or tax increases, apart from multinationals, right? But won't you won't commit to this self-imposed cap on taxes that the government has. Does that mean you're prepared to let bracket creep do the work for you?
No, we've made it really clear, as you said, other than making sure that multinationals are paying their fair share of tax in this country, we've made it really clear we're not going to be raising taxes. And we couldn't have been more clear on that. Now, during this election, again, you're going to hear a whole lot of lies from the government about this.
Why not commit to the cap then?
Well, we've made it really clear we are not going to raise taxes other than
but why not commit to the cap?
Getting multinationals paying their fair share. Well, our commitments are clear here. But can I just say, we will hear a whole lot of scare campaigning on the part of the government.
But haven't you just made it easier if you won't commit to the cap?
We couldn't be making it clearer that we are not going to raise taxes.
Then why not commit to the cap?
Well, because we're making the commitment that which I've just articulated.
Do you concede, though, that you open yourself, you make yourself vulnerable by not committing to that cap?
I think if we're making it clear that we're not going to raise taxes, that's what the Australian people want to hear. I don't think.
Why not commit to it then if you're not going to increase taxes anyway?
Well, I don't think I can say more than what I've just said. We are not going to be raising taxes. It is as simple as that. And the scare campaign that you will hear from the government about this comes from the government, which is the second highest taxing government in our country's history, the highest being the Howard government. So if you want to look at form here, this is a high-taxing, big-spending government that we've got with Scott Morrison. We are not going to raise taxes, pure and simple.
You're the Deputy Leader of the Labor Party. I know a bit about Labor Party rules. It means you can choose your job if you win the election. Do you want to be Treasurer?
I'm really focused on reconstruction, and I can tell you that if the election is the 21st of May, then my head is in the space of between now and that date. I'm not going to be getting ahead of that at all.
Do you think Jim Chalmers should stay as Treasurer?
I think Jim Chalmers has done a fantastic job as our Treasury spokesperson. I think all of those are questions for Anthony, but I think Jim has done.
You get to choose. That's what the rule says. So you can say to Anthony Albanese, "I actually really want to be Treasurer." Are you going to do it?
Well, let me say, in relation to me, I am focused on reconstruction. When Albo and I talked about establishing this portfolio just over a year ago, it really was imagining then, as it's turned out to be the case, that this election would be held in an environment where the country was coming out of the pandemic, and we really needed to be thinking about what kind of an economy we wanted to build and making sure that it was an economy which generated secure, well-paid jobs.
So you don't want to be Treasurer? You won't be asking Anthony Albanese to be Treasurer?
I'm not. I won't be. But what I am
you
focused.
Won't be asking.
But what I'm focused on here is between now and the 21st of May, doing the job of reconstruction, and I'm not going to get ahead of myself and start measuring curtains about what might happen after that date. There's an election to be won here. And we kind of, we're not going to make the mistake of 3 years ago. This is a close election. It's there to be won and it can be lost. And so our focus is on making sure that each and every day between now and then we are about trying to win that election.
Absolutely, you do have to win first, no doubt. But you are the Deputy Leader, so you do get to choose. You said you won't be asking to be Treasurer, in a form of words just then. Do you want to be Defence Minister?
I'm not going to walk down this path, Patricia. I'm focused on the job between now and the 21st.
But the government has made the point that we don't know who the Defence Minister will be.
And we don't know who the Health Minister will be if Scott Morrison is re-elected. And if Scott Morrison is re-elected, you can bet London to a brick. There will be some version of a reshuffle which occurs as Prime Ministers will do after they have won elections. So that will be the normal course, whoever wins. elections. But right now there's an election to be won. I'm focused on reconstruction. I'm very excited and energised.
So you'd like to do that portfolio in government?
I'm really energised about this portfolio. It is, for me, about imagining the kind of economy that we can build that will generate the secure jobs in the future, that will see wages going again. Because the standout stat in this economy over the last 9 years is that we've had prolonged wage stagnation. That's why there is a crunch on the cost of living, and that is what we need to fix.
Richard Marles, many thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Patricia.